Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. In my 48-degree shop, I finally decided to turn the heat on. I'm still wearing a shirt, 2 sweatshirts, and a coat. It's just right in here, I swear, for working. For hanging around, not so much. I hope your Friday's going well. Here in Maine, it was about, let's call it freezing, 30 to 32 degrees this morning. I fired up the golf cart, took my son to the bus stop. The bus came and went, and there I sat. Gas pouring out of the golf cart, and it wouldn't start. The night I bought it, 3 weeks ago yesterday, my son was on the late bus, and the late bus drops him off a mile away, down at the intersection with the major road. So, brand new cart. First day out, I drove all the way to the end of the road, about a mile. And the last 400 or 500 feet, it was popping and banging pretty good. And when I got down there, gas was running out of the carburetor. It has a brand new engine that runs really well. Well, it sounds really good. It didn't run that great. It was hard to do any low-speed maneuvers with it. The carburetor was just not smooth, and then it has this problem. So it had time to cool off, and we made it almost back to the house before it quit on the hill to my house, and we had to push it to get it going. My son pushed it and it took off, and he thinks that fixes everything now. Hey, it's not a bad thing to assume. So, short trips has been pretty good, and that night, the first night I bought the golf cart, I bought a carburetor. I told you about it. You can buy an imported one for $18 to $25. I spent the long money, $92 for a genuine Easy Go field kit, which is pretty cool because it came with additional heat shield and extra gaskets, new studs, new bolts, coil relocation, brackets. I mean, it had everything. It was a kit. Gotta love a kit. And I've been hesitant to put it on because it smells like gas all the time, but it started it up in the morning and stuff pretty good, so I figured rich was good. Here in the Northeast, it's cold in the morning. Well, last Thursday, it failed to start. Did like a normal do, pulled the choke out. All I smelled was gas, looked under the seat, gas running out of the carburetor again. Fortunately, it doesn't run inside the engine. It just runs out on the ground. So I went out a few hours later, a week ago, fired it up. I've been using it ever since until this morning. It left me stranded, and that was it. So I tried to push it, but it's uphill, and it doesn't push as easy as you think. It's not bad on flat going, but up the hill, it was more work than I wanted to do. So I went and got the tractor, a tow strap, and I woke my wife up out of bed to come steer the golf cart. And that's kind of like waking up a hungry bear after hibernation. But we got it home, and I just went ahead and swapped out the carburetor. It only took a half an hour probably, with all the updates and retrofits, and man, does it run nice now. So I'm happy I spent and bought the genuine one. Now a smart man would just throw this away. Me, no, I'll save it in a safe spot. I mean, it's a perfectly good carburetor if you fixed it, I guess, and it has the studs and a spacer and gaskets, and well, what's this much more space taken up when you can't move anyway? So I'll put it out in the storage box and hopefully never need it again. If that original one lasted almost 20 years, well, I'll be happy with that. Now let's talk about the Race 55 Chevy project. I've been collecting parts for this car, even though I didn't know I'd ever own it. I was going to try to make the 72 Nova what the 55 is going to be, a street legal race car. So I've been collecting parts forever. Oftentimes I'll see a whole bunch of stuff for sale. I'll end up buying all of it. That was the case 2 summers ago. I believe it was out in western Massachusetts. The guy had all kinds of stuff that I had inquired about. I was most interested in I believe it was auto rod controls. It was a Pro Street switch box, had starter, fans, lights, turn signals. And I wanted to buy that, but he had all kinds of other stuff and happened to be coming to Portland, Maine to take his wife down to the old port on a Sunday afternoon. So, long story short, which I'm not good at, he brought all the junk with him. I bought it all. Included in the parts were packages of these centerline lug nuts, 1/2-inch fine thread. They're an odd lug nut, not something you're going to use every day. They're not conical seat. They're not a very long shank. I recognize them because my orange Camaro that I last drag raced had the same front wheel as the 55. Those were popular back in the 90s. The Conview Pro, probably said it wrong. The 55 had 1/2-inch fine thread nuts just up against the wheels holding them on. It did not have the correct lug nuts. But I knew I had them and they fit like a charm. Awesome. And I got multiple packages of these, so I'll never run out. The rear has 5/8 drive studs, and I'm going to hunt today. I'm pretty sure I have enough rear lug nuts as well. That may sound like something simple, but hey, that's probably front and rear $100 worth of hardware. So it all adds up. And speaking of adding up, I have been on the hunt. Well, when new projects show up and you're all excited about them, I do anyway, start hunting for parts. So first I need to finish and update the chassis. It's all chrome moly. Chrome moly is expensive. And you have choices you can buy. Most advertised 7-foot lengths can go UPS or FedEx. I went to order some this week in various sizes. Hang on a second. For a guy that doesn't want to live under the SFI rules, umbrella, you know what I mean? Because I want to be like, you know, a hot rodder, street rodder, but I found, here I go, my 25.1 paperwork and my 25.4 paperwork. If you're not familiar with the SFI specs, every increment in the quarter-mile ET requires a different chassis cert, and once you go faster than 750, which was the 25.4 paperwork, I was building a mild steel car, the 63 Nova that I had. And in a lot of ways, it's almost identical to the 25.1. There's just some different, you know, verbiage on stuff. And like I mentioned before, once you buy this paperwork, and I paid $41 for this one, and this one, the slip's probably in here somewhere. I bought that one on 2/5/2016, and this one, I don't know when I bought it. Before that, when I was fixing the orange car, when it failed the chassis cert. So, in order to, once you have this paperwork, you can go on the website. You can't see all the pictures that are in here. I'll even get in trouble if I show them to you. You can't just go online and see everything you need to know. You have to buy this from them. That's how they stay in business, I guess. But once you buy, like this is 25.1E, they're probably up to, I don't know what letter in the alphabet now. All the updates from the inception till now are listed on this website with pictures. So you really only have to buy one of these once, and you can just go back on their website and continually know what the updates are. Well, I've been studying it because I want to finish the chassis and have it, you know, certified for as quick as possible. So there's a lot of interpretation. There's no question about that. The way the car's built, I think I can do what I have to do. So if I see my UPS man today, I'm going to go ahead and apologize to him because I bought quite a bit of tubing, and when I called Applied Racing Technology out of Florida, I used to buy stuff from them all the time. That's like a hardware store for a race car chassis. They can do 8 feet of tubing. You can try to get it locally. I didn't try. It was easy just to pick up the phone, and it was shipped out within an hour. And because they also had stuff that my local steel store wouldn't have, I wanted the specific 4-bolt flanges, so a couple of the cross members underneath can unbolt. You know, they have to be continuous, you know, left to right across the car, but it can have a center section that drops out, and it has to be chrome moly, certain bolt spacing. Everything's really specific in here. Like every bolt hole has to be 1.5 times itself from the edge. I mean, there's lots of very specific information. So I bought a couple of those and a bunch of other stuff that should allow me to finish the chassis. I have the drive shaft enclosure, but I needed some chrome moly loops so I can make the rest of it. So I spent a bunch of money, and now I'm committed to fixing the chassis. This is where my Wednesday got interesting. I have notched tubing on my lathe before, my small lathe, before I even had the big lathe. This time I'm going to use a big lathe, which works a lot better. It's just sturdier. And I had bought a bunch of large end mills, which are really expensive, a while back, and I'd found out that the roughing end mill worked really well, but I only had 1.5 inches, and that on 1 5/8" tubing, chassis roll cage tubing, it works pretty good, but you have to do a little fitment with a grinder afterwards. It's certainly better than a hole saw situation, I think, but it wasn't perfect. I've always wanted 1 5/8" end mill to do it. And I had found a couple, but they weren't the right ones. And if you buy the one, like from Mittler Brothers, they make a nice portable tubing notcher, end mill style, but if you buy it from them, they mock it up sufficiently that it's a very expensive end mill. Well, long story short, I'm talking to my buddy Charlie Wednesday morning, and he has found me one. He's going to bring it to me next week. Awesome. So to bend the tubing, I have an Affordable Bender. That's the brand, Affordable Bender. And when you buy the bender from them, you have to buy each shoe for each style, each size tubing. So I have 1 5/8" shoe, and I have 1 1/4" shoe. But I've always wanted, 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, all the other sizes that are available, but each shoe set's a couple $100. I was sitting here reading my SFI paperwork. I might as well tell you all the funny story. And another guy calls, unrelated to my story, and we start talking about tubing specs. I'm like, I got it right in front of me. I'm actually studying the book. Hang up with him. Another guy sends me a message that I've been doing some trading with and says, hey, are you interested in a pipe bender? Well, most people are going to show you that one from Harbor Freight, that will kink any roll cage tube, and it's made for doing, conduit and stuff. Who knows what it's for, but no, I said for roll cage tubing, they sent me a picture. It is the Speedway version of the Affordable Bender. And I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison because I made a trade for it. But here it is with all 5 shoes. And we made an excellent trade on it. I could not say yes fast enough. So between that and the end mill, that all happened within like 2 hours. So Wednesday was a good day. And then I went ahead and bought all the tubing from Applied Racing Technology. Also on Wednesday, I have been shopping for rear coilover shocks for the 55. It has strange front struts that are just missing the front springs. They're 12-inch, and I believe out in the green box I have an assortment of 12-inch springs. That's mine. But the rear coilovers, they're not there. There's solid spacers just holding the car up. But the beauty of that solid spacer, one, when the car is in the lift, the rear end's still in the right position to measure for the drive shaft. And 2, that is the ride height. So on that car, and all fast cars, I guess, you typically run the longest coilover possible. So this takes a rear coilover that takes a 14-inch spring. And I was doing some research and had saved a few on eBay on my watch list, and even put one set in my cart. When that happens on eBay, sometimes the seller sends you a discount if you're willing to accept it. And that's what happened. I had a set of, first I found a set of Coney Pro Mod shocks, they're called. If that's indeed what they were, the guy had listed a pot number. They were over in New Hampshire. And they wanted $500 for them. They did have rear springs, but said they probably need to be rebuilt. They were well used, new. They're $500 a piece. But I wasn't sure how interested I was. I was actually going through the town they were in. I tried to stop and see them, but that didn't work out. So long story short, I've never saw those shocks, but it's few and far between when you happen to list or find the correct one. So in my cart on eBay, I had a set of Viking double adjustable, coilovers listed. And what is handy is they list all the specs. So I go down to the car and, they give you your average ride height within 3/4 of an inch. It was 16 1/4. My car's 16. The mounting bolts are 1/2 inch. My mounting bolts are 1/2 inch. 1-inch wide spacer on the spherical bearing on either end of the shock, which is what my brackets take. And they were listed without springs for $460 for the pair. So, and Viking has to build them for you, so that's awesome. So I went ahead and bought those. And I knew back when I set up my orange car that I had bought too heavy a rear spring. I think the 140 or 150s. And I ran a 110 on that car, rear spring. That's the weight rating. But the 55s are a little bit fatter, so I found them. They're brand new. All they did is hold the car up here in the shop for a day. So they're still new in the box. And I will use those at least initially. Now, the smaller tire you try to run, the more you need to know about shocks. When you have a huge rear tire, you pretty much get a free pass because the car's probably going to hook no matter what you do. So, and I've been thinking ahead. I mean, all the racing, I'm going totally off the reservation on this thought. You know, the small tire racing around here is, you know, bigger than if you show up with a big tire car, you're expected to go really fast. I'm not probably going to have that amount of power to go that fast. You know, for a street car, it'll be hopefully fast, but not to run, you know, an unlimited category. But there's nothing stopping me. Now, it has a beautiful floater rear end that's narrow. It takes say a 1736 tire right now, but I could build a whole other housing that's wider and put a radial tire on there or a 10.5W. I could do anything I want. I build rear ends, so in the future, when the car's done, we're talking way ahead, the possibilities are endless. A lot of people put the small tires on their narrowed rear and it looks kind of funny. That's happening right now if you're watching the whole Mega Cash Day thing out in California. There's a lot of, you know, narrowed big tire cars with tiny tires on them. I guess it works. So the last tidbit about the 55, the race 55, is in the whole process in October last month of selling both my Novas and buying 255 Chevy hardtops, is I let my low buck 6-liter that we built on this channel, you can look it up under the 72 Nova playlist, I let that engine go. I made a deal on it, and along with my genuine BorgWarner S366 turbos that I was going to run, that's a good low buck option, you know, for an LS motor that works pretty good, they say. So I was unsure, again, on my engine combo, but definitely one of the combos I'm going to run is, you know, the LS is still the cheapest option. I just bought that aluminum 6-liter, so I think it's going to get that. And I did a lot of shopping the last couple of days, and I had them saved in my cart on eBay. A set of S366s that have now doubled in price. These are still by far cheaper than anybody else listed them. You have to be careful when you're shopping for turbos because they will list a imported copy under the same part number as a genuine, in this case, BorgWarner. So I want a genuine BorgWarner in the BorgWarner boxes, and that's what I found. And I had done some trading and had just the right amount of cash in my hand, and I find in those situations, if you just save the cash, it'll get spent, you know, $50 at a time or whatever, or you can just go ahead and buy something significant. So I allowed myself to do that. And with Black Friday coming up next week, who knows what's going to happen. So I have the Turbo 400 mocked in there. I have my Turbo 400 all ready to go. I wish it had a Reed case or an aftermarket case. You have to be careful on the Turbo 400 what aftermarket case you get. You might as well get a Reed if you want resale value. But in the Power Glide, I have, when I built the Power Glide for the Dart, I bought 2 of everything. I have a brand new BTE 180 straight cut gear set. I got a TSR brake. Every part to build the Glide, but I was going to use a stock case. I just saw a Black Friday sale this morning for a SFI BTE Power Glide case, bell housing and tail housing. Pretty reasonable. So I have not ruled out the possibility of building a Power Glide for the 55 Chevy as well. And also, people have been sending me links for Lenkos, and that's a really expensive option, but intriguing somewhat. Final thoughts. I showed you a few weeks ago that my original Milwaukee M18 half-inch impact, I was, trailing smoke. She was going down. It's slow one direction and even slower in the other. Probably needs brushes, and I'm not against fixing it, but shopping once again, good old eBay. This was a brand new, taking from a kit apparently, and I warned you that if you do your own research, some part numbers of these half-inch impacts under a certain serial number have an issue that Milwaukee is fixing. They're going back, research it, you'll figure it out. This particular part number, catalog number, is not in that area of affected guns, so I was pretty sure. And this was, again, brand new, never used, but out of the package, the guy just wrapped it up and sent it to me. But I cannot believe how much I reach for this. I don't use it very often, but like when I take off with my Suburban and trailer, I like to bring, a set of American and metric deep impact sockets, and this in case I got to change a tire. I don't want to be out there without my tools. So I throw this in the car, and here's a tip when traveling: take the battery out, because otherwise you'll be driving down the road and you'll hear this because it fell over and something triggered it. So I haven't even taken a bolt out with it yet. I'm pretty sure I ruined the other one by letting it rattle, trying to break stuff loose that was beyond its capability. I had an old square body Chevy I was trying to get the leaf spring bolts out of, and that was probably hard on it because I tried harder than I should have. So I know now if it's not going to bust right loose, get something bigger. This is, my old one was not as powerful as my best half-inch air gun, and I also have a 3/4 gun that is okay on power. But some of this new stuff, this is listed as a high torque model. This is a 2663-20. It's not fuel, but it was $120, so I bought it because I felt lost without it. So that is my Friday update. We covered a lot of stuff. If you're still with me, thank you. And I'll catch you in a couple days. Have a great weekend.